anything that I feel forced to see, I naturally repel. It's just like, they're in my face. I'll open up my phone. There's a picture of Ariana. I've never searched Ariana Grande ever.
Yeah.
But now every short is Ariana Grande on YouTube. I'm seeing interviews with her and what's the other girl's name?
I don't think it's a girl.
Oh, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Wait
a second.
Hold on.
Wait a second.
Let me.
We'll let you. You'll get your turn. No. You're gonna get your turn.
I lose my dignity.
You remember this song though, don't you?
Yeah. I also remember when I found out what this play was about. I'm singing it to myself in the shower. Like, wait a second, huh?
I remember being at a church picnic and we had just gotten out of the pool or something like that, and we were in the men's locker room, and it was like 6 of us, me, you, man, Butter. I mean, we were all in there and we were singing this at the top of our lungs. Will I lose my dick? And I remember one time we really were just like, what the heck are they talking about?
Yeah.
Seriously. So before we dive into that and answer it really quickly, welcome back to Black and Blurred.
The music's still on.
Yeah, I know. It'll die. It'll die down. It'll die down. But thank you guys. Welcome back to Black and Blurred.
Hi.
Just another episode. That's Daren.
It's me.
I'm Brandon. Now, I think that aspect of it, there's something we can actually blame our father for. We can actually blame him. We can blame him for being able to isolate literally instrumentation and care nothing for what words are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can hear something, it can sound good, and be like, oh, I like that. And then probably years down the line say, what the heck are they talking about? What in the world? So in that vein, really quickly, Daren, what is your favorite musical?
Man. I'm trying to think of a genuine answer. I mean, there's so many musicals.
There are.
Do Broadway plays count?
Yeah, they count.
Okay. Lion King. Easily.
I think that
and it's specifically the Broadway play because they include music from the first and second movies.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Well, the reason I'm asking that question, the reason I even opened with that film or whatever, it was a film. It was made a film. Rent was turned into a film. It was a Broadway musical. It was because we're talking about a film today, but it became film from a musical. A lot of people have talked about it ad nauseum, and it's Wicked. We're talking about Wicked, and I know a lot of Christian platforms and podcasts have been talking about Wicked, but we are going to be talking about it in probably a different way. There's going to be some overlap, but we've got a friend and sister with us here on Black and Blurred once again, and I feel like we've been hanging out more recently, a lot more recently. But welcome back, Amy from Eyes on the Right.
Hi, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad we're hanging out. Makes me happy.
Man,
you guys are great.
Now let me ask you. You heard the question. Oh. Do you have a favorite musical? What is it?
I grew up loving musicals. I actually was in theater and stuff growing up, and I love all the old classics like Sound of Music and My Fair Lady and all those that were just. I loved those. So yeah, I can't really pick one. And I actually was in a theater production of Grease. So
really, as who?
Oh wow.
Yeah, as an extra.
Okay, all right.
In high school, it was a high school play, but it was fun. Yeah,
that's nice.
So I like musicals, So
I opened that. So I opened this episode with that clip or that song from Rent.
Yeah,
and Daren, I mean, we were first introduced to Rent through the movie. right? We weren't familiar with the musical, the Broadway
No.
musical, right? We weren't, yeah.
No.
Even this much so, even though we knew this song, we did not connect that movie Rent was where Seasons of Love came from. We had heard the
Yeah,
song
we
before.
heard Seasons of Love before we ever knew of Rent, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after watching the movie and hearing the music, I mean, the music was fantastic in Rent. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Literally the instrumentation, the way they can build a song with the chords and progressions and things like that. But they're singing about, I think, just homosexuality and AIDS. I'm not, I mean, is that too reductionistic of me or what?
1,000 sweet kisses. That's it. I can't stand him because of that movie. If I see him anywhere else, I turn it off. I don't want him to sing. I will follow you. I don't want it. No. I don't want it.
There's
Him and Tay Diggs. Bye.
I want to look at this really quickly because I wanted to see what other people were actually gathering from this song. Will I? That was the opening song. Will I? Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow from this nightmare? And the scene is they're in this kind of support group of, I guess, AIDS survivors. They all have AIDS, which is a very morbid movie to make very kind of fluffy. You know, we're thinking about these people who have AIDS, which back in those days was a terminal illness.
Yeah.
But it's something that they're kind of celebrating about themselves. They're united in this, either through drug abuse or homosexuality. They have AIDS, and they're making songs and singing about it. And I'm thinking, this is very interesting. But let's see how other people are actually receiving this. Now, this is from 21 years ago. Look at this.
Wow.
This song is so deep, even with its simplicity, because it reflects on the thoughts that run through the minds of people who have to live with the stigma of being different or especially sick. I love it. It's just a pity that the man who wrote all of these incredible songs couldn't be around to see the true glory of his Broadway presentation. I forget his name, what his name was, who wrote Rent, but I think he died of AIDS. This song is actually based off, there you go, Jonathan Larson. This song is actually based off of something that Jonathan Larson heard at an AIDS meeting that he went to with his best friend because his best friend has AIDS. A guy stood up and said, "I'm not afraid to die, and I'm not afraid to leave everyone behind, but I am afraid of losing my dignity." And he turned it into this beautiful song, they said. Let's go to I agree completely with Rock and Play. I guess that's a previous commenter. The song is the perfect song in my opinion, and the way the chords work out is simply impressive and mind-boggling. I saw a copy of the score recently and it still drives me insane. Its simplicity makes it so complex. I hope that the movie version of Rent gives it the respect it deserves, and the presentation of this piece is just as amazing as Jonathan Larson would have wanted it. So it apparently it's impactful. It has deep impact on a lot of people, deep effect on a lot of people. And typically Christians would end up being the party poopers saying, "Oh, but it's about homosexuality and AIDS and all of that is icky and you shouldn't sing about that." But that's not our point. That's actually not our point. I'm going to read one passage before we get into our main topic, and it's from Hebrews 9. Hebrews 9:27 says this. And just as it says this, and just as it is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment, so Christ, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who are eagerly waiting for him. So what does that mean? It means the pain and the turmoil and the darkness that people go through in this world isn't worth singing over, because you need salvation from it. We're the cause of it. We also endure it. We're affected by it, but we're also the cause of it. And it is appointed for man to die once and then face judgment for it.
Right.
And that's not worth singing over. That's worth mourning But we shouldn't mourn because we have good news in the hope of Jesus Christ. That you trust and repent, turn around, trust him, and you're saved. That's worth rejoicing and singing. And that's why you find singing at Christian funerals. But we're talking about another musical Broadway turned film, and it's Wicked. It's Wicked. What are some things you have heard about Wicked thus far? You two?
Heard. I mean, I've seen Wicked before. With Kristen Chenoweth or with
Chenoweth. Yeah.
Really saw that version?
Mhm.
Wow.
Adina Menzel. I mean, it's it's classic. I'm a purist, and so naturally I was like, man. And that's just what Disney's been doing. I think they've been pretty lazy. They've just been recreating things that have already been done well. So that was my first inclination, was to go, meh. And then
with the release of the film.
What compounded was anything that I feel forced to see, I naturally repel. It's just like, they're in my face. I'll open up my phone. There's a picture of Ariana. I've never searched Ariana Grande ever.
Yeah.
But now every short is Ariana Grande on YouTube. I'm seeing interviews with her, and what's the other girl's name?
I don't think it's a girl.
Oh, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Wait, you might have to
wait a second.
Hold on.
Wait a second.
Let me double check that. I think that. Okay. Keep going.
The one in Wicked.
I'm sorry.
Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah, Cynthia Erivo.
Okay.
We'll let you. You'll get your turn. No. You're gonna get your turn. That is okay. All right. Cynthia.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish, Darren.
These people have been on my phones without my doing.
Yeah.
Just like, anything that was on my phone without my doing that I repelled. Like, hey, you want a free cheeseburger? Get the COVID shot. Or what's the girl? Jenna Ortega. It's another one that they kind of just kept throwing at us because she was in Wednesday. I don't. I just repel that stuff naturally. It's like, what is it? What is it about this movie that you want the world to see so much? Like, what is it about this? There's so many films. Why these two people who seem to be acting really weird toward each other as well, overly compassionate about nothing, and trying to outdo each other in emotion? It's just, I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to give them money.
Right.
So yeah, that's it.
So on the surface, Amy, what things, like in that same vein, what was piquing your interest as this was being rolled out?
Straight to the deep end.
She just
I'm
blew
sorry.
Straight to the deep end.
She just blew my mind. I'm telling you, but stay on the surface for us.
Okay. On the surface.
Yeah.
I also saw Wicked when it was at the Pantages when I lived in LA or outside of LA. And I, being a lukewarm Christian that I was entertained. I thought it was really good. The music was good. I wasn't thinking too much into it. I mean, this was over 15 years ago. So, but yeah, again, I mean, on the surface, I'll keep it surface. You always have to ask, like, why now? Why pushing this? Why Ariana Grande? Why are they reviving this now? Those are my questions that I always ask. And why Ariana Grande? She's seemingly been in the media, pushed out for quite some time now, especially within this last year. So, yeah, I was kind of like, okay, let's see where they go with this. I mean, it obviously they're catering to the younger generation as well. And so your question has to be, why do they want the younger generation engaged with something wicked or witchcraft? Those are questions that I was asking, surface level.
Yeah.
Even
you mentioning that, which Sound of Music is one of our mother's favorites. We grew up watching that ad nauseum. I promise you, Amy, we were the only black boys in West Baltimore City watching Sound of Music.
I love it.
But had no idea what it was about.
Yeah.
Oh
So we
man.
grew up on that. Mary Poppins, Sound of Music. Now, Mary Poppins has been
Mhm.
redone. I haven't actually seen it with Emily Blunt, but
Haven't
you
either.
bringing up Sound of Music makes you think like, yeah, there are a host of classic
Mhm.
films that would actually be fun to redo. I mean, I would love to see somebody actually redo the whole Nazi Germany aspect of Sound of Music and make that a little bit more tense and dramatic in the
Yeah.
theater to see what that would look like. But yeah, why Wicked? Now, on the very, very surface, my first response was this: that because I think what's coming out, I don't know timelines, but we got a Lion King prequel coming out, right?
Yeah, the Mufasa movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but the storyline is that Mufasa was adopted and Scar was the rightful king.
Right. Yeah.
So all these very sympathetic films towards the villain it's been
Mhm.
coming out, right? Even if it's not
Yeah.
just films, I mean, TV, there's Dexter, where there's this serial killer who is the protagonist in this
Mm.
in the show. And even deeper than that, you got the show Lucifer. I've seen none of these shows. I just read their synopsis. And you got a show Lucifer that humanizes Satan. There's like our entertainment is working on our moral dial in a more explicit way
Yeah.
other than just kind of showing immorality. It's actually redirecting the moral compass now towards the villain, that we would have compassion and empathize with the villain. Now, in a way, as sinners, we should be able to empathize with the villain, but not in a way where we celebrate it and want to relate to him. It's something to mourn over. But yeah. So as we get deeper, I just want to reintroduce us to very cringeworthy content first. I've got an interview clip from Wicked, where they're actually in an interview talking about an interview they were in. So let's listen to this for those who are listening, and let's look at it for those who are watching.
People are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that.
That's really powerful. I was surprised because I was like, I had no idea because I've been looking. I mean, it's been happening on some platforms.
She was like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I've seen it, yeah.
That's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that this thing was going on.
I didn't know that was happening.
So I didn't know what any part of it meant.
That's really powerful.
I didn't understand
This is all their cut, by the way. I mean, I did a little bit editing so you can look closely at things, but this is their cut. It's weird. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
first sentence.
I've seen this week people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that.
And then I definitely didn't understand what was happening, how you responded. I was like, oh, what did she say? What did you hear? And I just wanted to be there because I knew something big was happening. And I didn't know how to be there.
I didn't know that was happening.
But then after a while, I didn't know how to be there.
Yeah. That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She said something that meant something to her. It meant something totally different to you.
Yes.
And then she tried to kind of get somewhere else.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing was, I remember in the moment asking myself, am I okay? Did I not hear something? And I was like, because she looks like she's about to cry again. And I'm going to grab this because I think you might need something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the tapping was about. But that
Tension.
That happened. Yeah, that happened. I was like, oh, something's happening.
She had said that she was seeing it because she was in queer media.
You know, I am in queer media.
And I was like, I honestly didn't know
same.
what that meant. And am I also in queer media?
Yeah.
Maybe?
We are great.
Work. Let's both be there.
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, I don't even know
Right?
what
Whoa.
they're doing.
What just happened?
I mean, it's jumping everywhere. You would think that I edited that, but no, that was from Vanity Fair, whatever it was, and that was their own cutting. I was just focused on the fact that she's kind of like holding and stroking her finger that way. It's very weird.
Very strange.
And just for the record, queer media is redundant. I think media is really run by a lot of just, I think, sexual debauchery, really. And I think that's the reason why it's been normalized in society. That's the only reason it could be, is because you have people in positions of power and propaganda who can usher this in, per those Harvard professors and their outline of desensitization, jamming, and conversion. But okay, so that is kind of what we were seeing on the surface leading up to the release of Wicked. Let me put people at, I don't know if it's at ease, but before we dive deep, the fact of the matter is Christians are called to be discerning. And I think people typically get upset. I think we're in a culture now where Christians get upset with Christians for being Christian. I think being faithful. And you just need to ask yourself, if someone said, hey, we're going to invite you to a fantastic dinner. It's going to be the greatest dinner in the world, but it's going to be poisonous. It's like, well, obviously you don't go, even if it's a fantastic time, because of the end result. And so that's why we do these things. That's why we're called to be discerning, is because the media and this world wants to entice you to look at that which is poisonous as that which is delicious and scrumptious and enjoy it. And you ought not do that. So I would say the first thing that I saw on a deeper level was them having super weight loss. You guys mentioned that. Amy, had you seen anything regarding that, and what was that being attributed to?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it right away as well. Just very emaciated. And, you're seeing that a lot actually in Hollywood right now with the push of Ozempic and some of these drugs and stuff like that. But I would almost take it a little bit deeper. In my experience, I've seen things where there is spiritual or demonic oppression or possession that actually causes this type of emaciation or physical things that happen. So I don't know.
The context regarding that, your experience, what did you do and what was that experience?
Yeah. So without getting too personal on the details, I mean, I do counseling. And so I work with people coming from all walks of life, trauma, SRA, satanic ritual abuse, all of the things. And I had a couple of clients, and one specifically was very much into channeling, and she was calling in spirits to help her in this profession that she was in. And I'm not going to get too detailed, but the long and the short of it was she realized at one point she was getting very sick, and her normal weight, which was just an average weight for a woman her age and height, rapidly decreased. And she was eating and she was eating, and she could not put weight on. And so it was just depleting her. And she also had some physical ailments. She had, she was just really, really ill. And she very much linked it to the time when it started, was when she started calling in these spirits, calling in the demonic to help her with her power for the profession that she was in. And when she started to get saved and started to be delivered from Jesus, like, she was able to eat again, and the weight would stay on her so she could thrive and live and have energy, right? Like, that's what food is for, And so it kind of struck my eye a little bit. Again, I take it with a balanced approach, right? But I don't know. It was strange to me just how very, very thin they both were, especially Ariana Grande. She just looks very sickly.
Yeah.
So,
She was already small.
Yeah, very tiny. Right.
And I mean, I think even ironically, that clip that we watched that was cringe in and of itself was the very first clip I had seen without them sobbing and weeping about stuff.
Right.
It just seems very weird. What were you gathering from that in your experience, and just seeing how emotionally, I don't know, triggering or easily triggering emotionally they were?
Yeah. To me, it almost seemed like dissociation or DID, or almost like alternate personalities in a way you can look at it. It just, childlike, overly emotional, not really self-controlled. So it was just, I don't know, it was very strange. It was, I don't even really know how to put words to it,
Yeah.
but it was almost like they were acting, but it was weird. I don't know.
There's something you said on an episode we did together on our podcast.
Yeah.
It was a quick side comment, but you were just talking about how acting in and of itself is
Deception.
disingenuous. It's
Yeah.
deceptive
Mhm.
inherently. And I think that, a Christian hearing that would easily say, okay, that's splitting hairs. You're doing too much. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's the type of thinking that we lack today in American modernized Christianity. This idea of implementing what it means to love God with every aspect of your strength, your thinking, and your emotion, your capability, to think well about the things of this world, where something that we would call entertainment could be inherently deceptive, just as something that, Christians once called entertainment was deceptively murderous when it comes down to gladiator fights and watching people get thrown to lions for your entertainment. Like that was entertainment.
Well, I mean, we're watching other people sin is what we're doing.
It's true.
Like that's
You're right.
entertaining to us,
Yeah, that's convicting.
right?
I'm a cinephile. But because the way I would see it before just taking it to the height of acting in general is these films are filled with sexual immorality.
Oh yeah.
It's all over the place. Just
And it's not
gratuitous.
it's not acting it at a certain point.
No, you're doing it.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
Right.
actually doing it.
Yeah.
And so acting in and of itself is deceptive. So it's like these people have to practice. So I forget what you just called it, DID, or they have to practice that as a career.
Right. Dissociating into an alternate personality or character. Right.
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 And I think there's a very direct link to almost like the Matrix. Whatever happens to you in the Matrix, if you get killed in the Matrix, then you get killed in real life. You get into this character, and if that character is a dark character, it will affect you as an individual. Heath Ledger.
Thank you. I was just thinking of that.
It will definitely affect you. And I don't think we actually think about that. We just get our tickets and we watch. And, I always say, I forget whose quote this was, but you learn the most when you think you're being entertained.
It's interesting.
And that's what we're getting from this. Now, my piece of ignorance, I don't know anything about these two. Obviously, I know Ariana Grande is a singer. And Cynthia Erivo, I've seen her in a film, I think. And then the last thing I saw her in was years ago in that famous clip from there. You know what I'm talking about, The Greatest Showman, when they're telling a story about him not being able to sing. They were doing From Now On.
Oh, that was her?
She's in the one standing up, and that was her. At least I think so.
She was in The Color Purple, I think, too.
On the movie or Broadway?
I can't remember.
I won't watch it.
Thinking maybe the movie.
I actually called your wife, Daren, earlier last week. Said, "Hey, give me everything you have on Ariana Grande." Now, and what she brought up was this. She brought up relationships. Are you familiar with her relationship history, Amy?
Not off the top of my head.
So apparently,
Mac Miller.
Yeah.
That's one. Okay, that was a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, really. Give us an introduction to it. I don't know anything.
I'd have to rack my brain on it. So I know he died, and it was kind of a strange. I want to say it was suicide, maybe, and it was really strange how. I don't know. Don't quote me on that because I can't remember. It's been quite a minute, but who else was she dating?
I don't know names. I just know that what she is what one would call a home wrecker. That her relationships end relationships, even the most recent being a relationship with someone she met on the set of this film. who since left his wife and their 3-month-old.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah. So
I'm
that's
looking
all
at
I
the,
have.
okay. I'm
That's
looking at
all
the history now, but um yeah, gosh.
Yeah,
It's too bad.
so um that's an interesting thing. But there was something that really piqued my interest when you and I were talking, and you mentioned how she dabbles in witchcraft or is a self-proclaimed witch. The only thing in connection to anything religious I've heard of Ariana Grande is her interest in Kabbalah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, she did an interview, and I'm trying to find it on my page, but she did an interview with a guy, and he was talking to her about her role in Wicked, and she was like, "Oh yeah, everybody would come up to me and want me to read their cards or something like that, something about like, tarot reading or something." And he said he said to her, "So are you a witch?" And she's like, "Oh, but I am a witch." And she threw up the curse sign when she did it, and
Hmm.
it was just like she was just self-proclaiming it, like I am a witch. It's not a role. Essentially, I am a witch.
Can you do a tarot card reading for me?
Oh my God, I wish I brought them.
Yeah, what is what are you just walking around set looking to do readings
Every
for people?
day. No, they come to me.
Oh, interesting.
They come to me.
You are a witch?
I am indeed the witchiest witch.
And makes sense. I mean, it really does, because this isn't a role for them. This is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's new age. I mean, people that participate in new age divination, psychic channeling, gematria, numerology, all the things, they're dabbling in witchcraft. So it's not an understatement to say that she's a witch,
Right.
or she's saying she is. So I'm going to believe her for she's telling us who she is. So
I mean, it would probably be more accurate to assume that Hollywood is filled with witches.
for sure.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
mean, we've always said when we cover episodes on Hollywood or whatever, that it would be a false assumption to believe that Hollywood is filled with evil stuff. I think that's a statement that's made from the wrong perspective. I think a more accurate statement would be that there are some innocent people in Hollywood.
Sure.
I think that would be the statement to make. To assume that Hollywood in and of itself is meant for evil. It's meant for evil. And I think that there are some naive, innocent individuals there who either see it for what it is and leave, or who have probably this self-deceiving thought of going in and affecting change, or they are converted. And I think that's what you end up seeing from a lot of these Disney children who turn into just zapped out zombies.
Right. Sad.
It is sad.
It is.
Okay. We need to revisit what you said earlier.
Yeah, I'd like to explain myself.
Yes, let's hear it.
Okay. So I'm going to get a little deep here, guys. So just bear with me. I mean, I think that people are able to grasp this idea of androgyny and transgenderism much more today than 10 years ago. So I'm just going to preface with that, because when you look at it from your own lens, it doesn't make sense. But you have to look at it from an occultic, spiritual lens that they are coming from. So first of all, the original author of Wicked scripted Elphaba to be, it doesn't say what her gender is. It's assumed she's a hermaphrodite or an androgyne. So already you have the fluidity and the duality of male, female, the blending of the genders, because you don't know what she is, right?
Right.
And in these type of movies and stuff, there's always this undercurrent of occultism and duality. And so you'll always see the feminine and the masculine. And to me, it just makes a lot of sense that Cynthia, that's her name, right? That she would most likely be transitioned. And that's speculation on my part. I'll admit it. And I'm not judging her. I'm just saying, based on what I've seen and what we're seeing today, we see celebrities transitioning their kids right in front of our eyes. They've been doing this for decades. They've been doing it for, centuries. The royals are infamous for transitioning their kids. Why? Because their occultic lens believes in the polar opposites coming into duality, which is perfectionism to them. And if you understand that part of symbology, then you start to see things in a different way, as to why she would potentially be a biological male, transition probably at a young age to a female. And if they transition before puberty, it's really hard to spot, because the puberty, the hormones don't hit. So they look, more of that gender that they're trying to transition into. So I know that's a lot for people. So
Interesting.
yeah.
I think so maybe people need to be aware. You said something I think would be very normal for us to hear. I don't know if people are aware of how prevalent that practice of raising transgender children is before even transgender conversation was popular.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which I would say popular within the last 5 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And but this practice has been going on. Do you have any examples of maybe speculative or not? Now, I'll say this one out loud. There's always been a big stir around Joan Rivers very matter-of-factly calling Barack Obama the first gay president.
The United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
There was a big stir around that because it's not like she was on a gossip magazine or anything else. She was at her front stoop at her door, and paparazzi found her. They asked her about any excitement on there being a woman or first gay president. I can't remember, quite frankly, but she made a comment about, we already have the first gay president. Just matter of fact. And they're like, huh? They said, yep, Michelle is a transgender.
We all know.
Yeah.
She said. That's what she was so kind of out of her normal Joan Rivers. She was very subdued, and she's like, we all know.
We all know.
Right.
We all know she's transgender. Like you just felt the authenticity of what she was saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's a rabbit hole for some folks.
It is.
I think that when you look, here's the thing.
Poor Joan didn't make it another year, did she?
No, she did not.
No.
And poor Joan didn't make it another year. Yeah.
No, she did not make it another year.
Mm-mm.
I think that when you take that in concert with other things that have happened, I'm sure you're familiar with, what is his name, Amy? There was a guy who was Stormy Daniels before Stormy Daniels. He was the Stormy Daniels for Barack Obama that we never heard about.
Yeah.
Driving or parked?
No, the driver's driving.
Yep.
I start to put a line on a CD tray, and I just happen to notice that he pulls something else out of his pocket. And next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, some people smoke, some people snort.
Smoking the cocaine.
Yes. So as I'm doing a line, I just start. This is the part where you kind of make your move to see where things are going. So I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going, and it went the direction I had intended it to go. So the night became somewhat active sexually and drug-wise in the limo.
Gosh, I can't remember.
What was his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Like Gerald or Larry. Was it Larry? Larry Sinclair? Is that right? I can look it up, I think.
Okay.
Maybe the internet will let me. But do you have any other examples like that would be, it's speculative, but at least in the same context to say, hey, this is something way deeper and more ritualistic than you may know.
Yes. I can throw out a few that I would think would potentially be, I will say this, let's travel back a little bit, because this was prevalent in the Old Testament too. A worship to Inanna, the temple gods and the gallows that were in the temple who were androgynes, they would dress up in women. The priests of the temple that served the goddess would dress up as women. And they even had songs to their priestess, and it's very common that these gods of old were androgynes. And so I think when we look at it with a scriptural lens of, even in the garden, even with, you will become like gods, knowing good and evil. God designed male and female. Well, what would Satan do? He'd want to blur them together so there's no definition. So when you start to look at it from that lens and then kind of move forward off of scripture, it starts to make more sense, But yeah, I mean, for example, Jamie Lee Curtis, on her birth announcement, it straight said there, I have pictures I've saved over the years, but it says that she was a hermaphrodite. They used her a male name for her. I think Sandra Bullock, I think they play on names sometimes where it's male type names for the actress. Pink, the singer Pink, I think could potentially be. And you have to think too.
What are you doing?
Me? You have to think.
What are you doing?
Oh no, Jared's I'm just shattering people's brains right now.
Sandra!
I don't know. I need to. You know what? Keep going, Amy. Keep going.
And again, we got to realize this is Hollywood, you guys. So
I know.
It's weird and wacky, and a lot of times, okay, here's one that's probably really going to kick you, is Jennifer Aniston. I think that she could have potentially been transitioned before she was, and I've seen a couple pictures where it very well looks like there could be something there. Now,
she's had some weird, along with Sandra Bullock, they've had some weird conversations with like Ellen DeGeneres, and they're like making jokes about things that they think are secret because we're all too stupid to pick up on anything that they may be saying.
Right. And there were a couple episodes where they would make fun of Jennifer Chandler and the other one. And there was a couple where they alluded to the fact that she had a male part, and they're making fun of it like it's a joke.
The rumor was that you had both male and female reproductive parts.
What? That's right. We said your parents flipped a coin, decided to raise you as a girl, but you still had a hint of a penis.
But if you start to, I'm telling you guys, look at some of these people.
That's very Hollywood.
Who have transitioned, not celebrities, but just look up people, Google people who have transitioned before puberty. You will not be able to tell that they were their biological gender. I'm telling you, the things they can do, plus they're in Hollywood, breast implants, plastic surgery, hair extensions, trainers, food. I mean, prosthetic moon bumps. I mean, these people can do anything. And if you know a little bit about anatomy, you know that women's pelvises are bigger and wider. And so there's differences in the anatomy too, the bone structure. And it's not a one size fits all. You have to use discernment and wisdom, and it's not like we're going to go call everybody out, but
right.
But if you kind of use discernment, I think another one is Brooke Shields. I think she's definitely a dude. And if you know, in Blue Lagoon, you never see anything. You just see,
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys, are we going to take it here? I didn't even realize we were going to take it down this road.
You know
this is what it is. This is what it is.
Okay.
And what's necessary.
Wicked indeed.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's exactly right. So what's necessary is that people, they don't even have a frame of mind to think within this paradigm. It's kind of like what you and I were talking about on your podcast when we're talking about Christianity in America. Claims of faith in an omnipotent, eternal, omnipresent, triune God who was born through the birth canal of a woman, potty trained as the all-knowing God, right? Raised as a baby into an adult man, bled, died, rose again from the dead, ascended into heaven, sits at the right hand of the Father, with whom he shares a united eternal power with the Holy Spirit, will return again as the ultimate judge. But then when we start getting into demonology and angelology, it's a little bit too hoogity boogity for you.
Right.
So,
Right.
well, what exactly do you actually believe then? I don't know if you might actually be in the right paradigm, because if there is anybody with a paradigm for this, what we're talking about, it is the Christian.
Sure.
It is the Christian, that the world is deceived in a lot of different ways, and take part in that deception inherently, and that the human heart is sick enough, desperately so, to take part in it, and also love taking part in it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have that paradigm. But you blew my mind just now.
Well, let me tell you this. When I first stumbled upon even this on my radar, I was just like, no way. No
Yeah.
way. And that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And then I
Mm.
started to see the why behind the transitioning. It's not trendy. It's not because I
Right.
think
Yeah.
it's very spiritually motivated.
Yeah.
And if you can't look at it with that lens, you're gonna exactly
Yeah.
both male and female parts. This is who they serve.
Right.
The androgyne, the
Yeah.
one who says there is no male or female. You can be
Right.
both. You know that song Blurred Lines?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yes. And when you start digging deeper and you just kind of open your mind up and say, okay, Lord, show me, like, what is the weirdness in this world? He'll show you.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
It's
but
weird.
but it makes sense from a spiritual lens. And that's how you have to look at it from. It doesn't make sense to us as a Christian because, you know, we believe in our identity as male and female, right? Like that's who God created us to be. But
what really bothers me is the start point, as you said, is spiritual. It's evil. It is demonic. It is rooted in a hatred for Christ and his saints. It's
Right.
rooted in that. And then
Yeah.
we fast forward to now where it's become trendy. It's become emotive, right? It's become rooted in this toxic compassion where it's like, hey, you use pronouns. It's loving. You're not a real Christian if you don't use pronouns. Like that stuff is so dumb to me. But here you are with Christians who are not only just using pronouns, but they're bought into this lie, thinking that the start and stop point is with society and it's about being nice and kind to each other.
Right. Right.
And that's not the case.
Mm.
I'm trusting that because, like, where I am on the speculations regarding Michelle Obama, it's not just flippantly, you know, it's not
Yeah.
carelessly.
Right.
There were some rabbit holes there for me
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I dove
Me too.
into. The same for when, you know, Candace Owens was being attacked for the claims that she made about Brigitte
Macron.
Macron.
Yeah.
And it's like the only response you can do when you're telling the truth is dismiss you. They can either dismiss you or kill you or both.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's what was happening. And it wasn't even her claim. It wasn't her claim. It was French journalists who were claiming that Brigitte Macron, the supposed wife of Emmanuel Macron, France's president, was a male. It's born male.
Yeah.
And not only that, he was an actor, right? Or like he was in the arts in some way, right?
I don't remember. Yeah, it could
It's
be.
not Ukraine's president.
Both.
Oh, okay.
And Trudeau. And Trudeau.
I knew
Trudeau's
that about
also in there.
Trudeau.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it's like, what's going on here with these
Yeah.
world leaders and things like that? But
Yeah.
the evidence that she brought forward is undeniable.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you start to look at Michelle's book, Becoming Michelle. It starts you start to see it for what it is, right?
Yeah.
The veil comes off because you're like, they're literally telling us in plain sight.
Yeah.
And that's also a part of their spiritual.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like they have to tell you. They have to.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the kind of the information is like bridges the gaps. It fills in all of the other fuzzy weirdness. You got Barack Obama,
Totally.
like Michael. I mean Michelle.
Yeah.
It bridges
Yeah.
that gap. It's like, well,
Yeah.
it makes sense if Michelle's a man. You know what I mean? That makes sense that he would slip and say Michael.
Multiple
referring
times.
to his wife.
Multiple times.
Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today. All of you have performed extraordinary service to our country.
Yep.
Multiple times. I don't think I've never slipped up
Never.
and said Daren when talking about my wife.
Never. Yeah.
Or David, or Tom.
right.
Like,
neither is my husband. Believe
Yeah,
it or
that
not.
doesn't really work. Yeah,
It doesn't fly.
It doesn't happen. And so you've got that gap that's bridged. You got another gap bridged in the letters that Obama sent to his former ex-girlfriend in college that they can't be together because he fantasizes sexually about men.
Wow.
That's what he wrote in his letter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, people will just get mad at you for delivering the truth, telling the truth about that. And that's where we are. So that is the reality that is packaged into this thing called Wicked.
Yeah.
Called
It's all wicked.
Yeah, right. And people are taking their daughters and their sons and they love it. And you jokingly said this to me in an email, but I was in the same boat where I loved the Broadway play of Wicked. Now, once again, what I loved about it was the music. That's just who I am. And by the music, I don't mean the words. I'm literally I'm saying you could get an orchestra and a band and have them play it, and I'm fine. That's it. That's all I cared about. But you throw in the theatrics and the actual words and things mean something. What does it mean to defy gravity? What does that mean?
Boom. That stuck out to me big time. That ending part, I just want to throw this in there. That a few things really stuck out to me with this because people say, well, what's the big deal? It's just entertainment. Okay. They're gearing towards the kids. They're making kids I want to dress up. I want to get the doll.
That's why you use Ariana Grande. It's like, you know what I mean? Like
that's
why they like her.
And did you see how on Mattel they accidentally put
porn? They put a porn site.
They put a porn site on the back of the Barbie.
These wicked Barbie dolls from Mattel, a serious misprint on the box. Instead of including a link to the Wicked movie website, the box lists a website of an adult film site.
The Wicked Barbie. And oops, we're sorry, that slipped by us. So you've got these little things that happen. Well, and then you've got these kids wanting to be a good witch. Well, there is no good witchcraft, There's no good witchcraft. And when you think about this defying gravity in some of the words, it's about rebellion. And when you think of the verse in, where is it? 1 Samuel 15, where it says rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. And you think about at the end, Elphaba is rebelling against the norm. I'm going to defy gravity. It's my rules, my way. And that goes in direct opposition of God's supernatural order, spiritual authority of submission and obedience, because it's structured the way he wants it. So it falls into line. And who's the king of rebellion? It's Lucifer and his 5 I wills, And so you'll always see this underlying theme of Christianity, if you will, or the antithesis of Christianity, the rebellion, the buck against Christianity in movies and in plays like this.
Right.
And that's what stuck out to me.
And let's be honest with listeners. Listeners, be honest here. The rebuttal that you have for us, is it rooted in the fact that you genuinely think that we hate people having fun and having joy in life? Is it rooted in the fact that you think that we are being judgmental and self-righteous? Or I'll even take it a step beneath that. Is it rooted in the fact that, hey, you're already aware of everything we're talking about, and the fruit of you being aware is seen in the fact that you actually take the same effort in discipling your children? Is that true? Do you take the same effort in discipling your children as you do in entertaining them? If not, then at least before getting angry with us, just spend time with the Lord, oh Christian, and reflect on that reality, that we are being trained and we're being trained and manipulated to believe that it is better for our children to learn the ways of the world than the ways of the Lord. That's what we're being trained in. That passage that you just referenced, Amy,
Yeah.
in 1 Samuel. Oh, here we go. That passage that you just referenced here says, "As the Lord is great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and presumption is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king." And so this is judgment against Saul. Now, we can extrapolate that thought and that heart to all of those who rebel against the Lord.
Sure.
We look at Deuteronomy 6, and this is Moses giving the instruction to Israel. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God. For those with context, what I'm about to read in Deuteronomy 6 is basically Israel's John 3:16. If you grew up in church, you grew up around Christianity, everybody knew John 3:16. This was Israel's John 3:16. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them. Listen to this. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. What's very interesting, especially in Christian culture, is that it's only popular to talk about something that's on our hand and our forehead when it comes to the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
That's when it's popular to talk about what's on our hand and our forehead. But here we are in Deuteronomy, where that's the precedent, that the mark of your hand and your forehead ought to be what comes from the Lord. And it's a sign of loyalty is what that means. It's a sign of loyalty that is what marks your hand and your forehead. And what God is telling Israel is that, hey, you need to discipline your children and train them in the knowledge of me. And he goes on and says, because I'm about to bring you into a land, and that land is filled with awesome things that you didn't earn. You didn't build it. You didn't plant it. You didn't dig it, yet it's yours. And because it's going to be so awesome, you're going to forget about me. So you need to train the generation to remember me. I think that's what we're seeing in this country now, where we enjoy the beauties and what's left of it, the beauties of America, and the freedoms we enjoy. And Christianity is just another, I don't know, side dish of America.
Yeah.
And those who even call themselves Christians, it's just another attribute of your lifestyle that you would throw in with everything else. You're a sports fan and you're whatever. I'm a Christian. And Sundays have been dedicated to sports for children. I was a student ministry leader. I know. Sports is dedicated, or Sunday is dedicated to sports. And if you push to try and just challenge and encourage parents to disciple their children, you're being mean and
Right. Right. Well, and you kind of see that theme even in that movie, or in the show Wicked, in the movie Wicked, is almost like this. She was bullied, right? Elphaba was bullied. And so then she kind of she was outcast. And then you see that polarity of the Miss Popular versus, and then you kind of see this idea of accept everybody, love is love. And it takes it to the extreme where, yes, we're to show love, we're to show, kindness, but love is not love. There's truth in love. And and I think it kind of blurs the lines of that too, where I don't know, it just, she's not a bad witch. She's just finding herself. She's actually a good witch at heart.
Yeah.
And you start to kind of have these endearing feelings for Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. And it just blurs the ideas in a child's mind. They can't conceptualize it and discern it the way we can. And
Even the more obvious things, like she's just green. Like,
right. Yeah.
just
What is
green.
evil anyways? I think that's
Right.
how it starts. What is evil?
Yeah, right.
What
Yeah.
is wicked, you know?
Obfuscate what good is. I mean, that's what
Right.
that's what it was in the garden. That's what happened.
Yes. Yeah.
Obfuscate what good is.
Mhm.
Yeah, dang, I was just about to say something and I forgot it. Man, my mind really just like reset and erased everything. You were talking about what good. Oh, yeah. Scripture. Paul says that Satan masquerades as a good witch, right?
Mhm.
It's an angel of
Mm.
light.
Right.
That's the thing. You know, he doesn't come dressed up in some red suit with horns and a pitchfork. He comes dressed up in every desire you have,
Right.
every
Yeah.
desire on earth, to make us think that the Lord, the good Lord, wants us to renounce our deepest desires. And that's not the way we ought to see it. What the way we ought to see it is that what we truly desire without knowing it is him.
Yeah.
And we need to know that that's what we desire.
Right.
Because if we go after things we think we desire, it will serve as a pang, and we'll be caught in a snare, and it'll be too late.
Yeah.
What are people you have counseled who have gone through satanic ritual abuse? Just what are some aspects of that people ought to be aware of? I'm sure that is not on a lot of people's register, that there are
Yeah.
individuals who have even gone through satanic ritual abuse.
I
What is
know.
that, and what are some things people should be aware of that happen?
You mean what are some things they should be aware of people that have gone through that? What that looks
Well,
like
yes,
for them?
that too, but
Yeah.
backing up, because you've talked about this a lot on your podcast.
Yeah.
Like talk as if you're talking to the mainline Christian evangelical that doesn't like dealing with Genesis 6 because it's too murky for them.
It's too much.
Talk to them of like, you're saying, what is satanic ritual abuse and what goes on in these things? What should people be aware of regarding it?
Yeah. So satanic ritual abuse is really organized and structured, and it can go all the way from, low level, low income people all the way up to the elitists and the globalists, if you will, of the world, the Illuminati. And it's organized, it's structured, it's heinous, it's utilized to create mind control slaves, to create DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which was previously multiple personality disorder was a previous name. And it's really to make a human slave. It's to control a human, and it's vile and heinous. And to the Christian that has never heard about that, it's really a lot when you first listen to it. I remember the first time I heard about this, and I thought, how could anybody ever even do this? Like, what kind of people do this kind of thing? And it's just turned over completely to evil. And a lot of these people are born into multi-generational families. There's people that work for the military that have been participating in this. There's people that work for politics that have utilized satanic ritual abuse. It kind of goes hand in hand with trauma, with ritual trauma abuse, right? Like it goes hand in hand with that. And it's real. It happens. And I think in, what was it, like the 90s, they tried to dub the satanic panic like it was just,
Oh yeah,
it wasn't anything. You
That's
had
right.
you had a few of those big cases like the McMartin preschool and all those things. And
And
they
ironically, they were linking that to metal music, rock music,
yeah,
which
yeah.
there is a direct link between
Yeah,
that.
Right. Well, you see the obvious. You see obvious. It's kind of like what you were saying. It's kind of like, Brandon, when you're like, you think it comes out with horns and a spiked, spiked tail and a pitchfork. No, it's actually done in churches, and it's done in schools, and that's where people's minds just get blown. Like, this really happens. Yes, it does. It's the people that look the part on the outside who are actually doing things at night that people would it'd blow their mind. So
this is what, Daren, were you about to say something?
No.
Okay. This is what I keep thinking about, Amy, and maybe you can speak on this as we close.
Sure.
I don't just disagree with people who are dismissive towards the things that we talk about. It's not just a mere, so Darren and I's response to them isn't just, oh, well, you are blind and you need to know what's happening. That's not our issue with their dismissiveness.
Yeah.
Our issue with their dismissiveness is rooted in what you just said. People actually are going through this.
Yeah.
They're experiencing this evil. And you, as an ambassador of Christ, is someone who is carrying with them the ministry of reconciliation.
Mm.
Yet there are people on this earth you would easily dismiss. What do you say to the Christian who has into their mind that, hey, I'm a Christian and I find everything that Brandon, Darren, and Amy just talked about to be completely foolish?
Well, I'd say first off, you need to take that to the Lord, because he's the one who gives us wisdom and counsel and understanding. We can't lean on our own understanding, right? Because we don't know it all. We haven't seen everything that happens in the deep, dark places and the crevices of the world.
Sandra.
So exactly. So we've got to lean into what the Lord wants to show us instead of our own understanding. And it's not for the faint-hearted, but these people's story need to come out, because they've been told either by themselves or the people that have perpetrated on them, or by their churches or by their family. No, you just imagine that surely didn't happen. He or she couldn't have done that to you. And what happens a lot of time in SRA is there's a lot of just ways to manipulate the person to make them believe that what they're experiencing isn't real. So they'll dress up in costumes. For the children, they'll come at night and they'll have costumes on. So when the child goes to the parent and says, this big, rabbit hurt me, the parent goes, no, honey, that was just a dream. Or at school, the big rabbit came and took me out of the room. Oh, honey, your imagination is just. And so what happens is we build this distrust, and we kind of brush it away because we're just unwilling to hear. And let me tell you, if your kids are telling you anything like that, listen to them. Please listen to them and let them share that with you. Because a lot of these people that I work with, they have the amnesia from the trauma, which is part of the dissociation. A lot of them don't remember their childhood. And there's a reason why, because the trauma they went through was unbearable. And that's another inclination that, potentially someone has been through traumatic abuse because usually we remember our childhood, at least parts of it from like 3, 4 on up. But to have no memory from 12 before or what have you, that's not normal.
Right.
Anyways, going on kind of a tangent, I'm sorry, but yeah, I just
No, that's very helpful. That's very helpful. It is in my understanding. I what's the word I'm looking for? I believe that we are entering into a time where Christians, more specifically in this country, this is our context, Christians in this country are recognizing the anemic nature of our modernized theology. They're hungering for scripture. I think that's why our episode together, Amy, was so popular and people were so appreciative of it. I think people are coming to Christ. They're reading their Bible and then they're hearing a hungry man dinner on Sunday. And they're thinking, whoa, there's a big gap here.
Yeah.
And they're wanting what the scriptures teach. And I think we are coming to future generations of believers that will demand that teaching, will be deliverers of that teaching. And I think as a result of that, there's going to be a lot of wild stuff that we see take place in this country.
I think so too.
Because of the vibrance of the church.
Mm.
And so I pray for that. Any last thoughts, you two, regarding Wicked? You see a mother with her children excited to go see Wicked. What do you say?
Darren?
Killer Joy. Killer Joy. Don't go, man.
Don't go.
Like, I've really been hoping that all of these movies that they're pushing, I mean, it's just wave of movies, and TV shows, like Netflix shows, all these, because this is where Hollywood has found its space in streaming places now because they realize that people aren't going to theaters anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping they all fail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping people don't go see those movies, that they lose a ton of money. Even the Marvel movies. I'm a Marvel fan. I'm not seeing anymore. I mean, I don't want to pay them.
Yeah, I'm
I
with
don't want
you.
to pay them.
Well, you should have heard my story time with the boys, Darren. I've been doing story time with the boys through Spider-Man and Iron Man. They have little action figures, and I'll tell them, I'll give them we do catechism, so I'll do catechesis with them through Spider-Man, Iron Man, little Bible story, and then give them a little origin story of Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America through the lens of Genesis 6 and rebellious Nephilim.
That's awesome.
All right.
I bet they love it.
Yeah.
Oh man. But I think that what I would say is for parents who are so eager to put a smile on your child's face through Hollywood, you may be able to do that through taking them to a movie, but you're putting way more on them than you realize.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the things that we're seeing in society, when this younger generation, even with adults today, it had a start point.
Yeah.
It had a start point. And when you look at the other side, when you look at people who may have started in darkness and now have joy and light, Amy, you're one who has joy and light and a life dedicated to the Lord. That has a start point. It has Christ. It's Christ. And parents have been gifted the opportunity to make that start point very young with your children.
Yeah.
You've been gifted that opportunity. So take that seriously. And just know that even if you still do want to go see the film, just know that Hollywood's not your friend. Hollywood's not your friend.
Right.
They don't want to make you happy. They want to transform you because that's the spirit behind it all. So proceed with caution and discernment.
Yes.
Any last thoughts for you, Amy?
I think we did pretty good. I guess I would just end with, they'll call evil good and good evil. And, I think it's Isaiah that says that. And so we just have to be discerning. And it's not, is it worth it to open up your child to potential entrancement or an enticing to witches and witchcraft and magic? Is that worth, and rebellion, is that worth it to you? Maybe that's a question you need to ask and, really take it to heart. So
Yeah. Well, as always, let me tell you something. I'm
heading straight to the duck goes.
Yeah.
As soon as this is over, is Martin Luther King a woman?
Yeah.
It's also deceptive, and that's the
of
thing.
course.
And that's what they want. I mean, you guys, if you want to get your mind blown, you should Google like FTM transitions on like Instagram, and you can start to see females that transition to males. Now, this is after they've gone through puberty, most of them. So you can see how seamless the transition looks just like that. Imagine before puberty, which a lot of these celebrities and politicians and global leaders, they do.
You have to understand how things are up here.